all new Dr. Phil. She's a real-life Nurse Jackie.
While you were taking care of patients, you were under the influence of drugs.
The availability of narcotics, it was like a kid in the candy store.
You're state hopping to stay one step ahead of the nursing board.
She claims her husband's an alcoholic.
I don't have an alcohol problem. I have an abusive wife problem.
You're here because the relationship is toxic. You're here because she's an addict.
Correct. I got to babysit her every freaking day.
I would like to save my marriage.
You're talking about save my marriage? I'm interested in saving your life. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. Well, John is here today, and he says that his wife, Heather, is one of the most brilliant nurses he has ever known. She even graduated valedictorian of her class in nursing school. But after Heather suffered from extreme back pain, she admits she turned into a real-life Nurse Jackie and began to take pain meds, eventually stealing them from her job at the hospital. Now, that's when John claims her behavior took a really dark turn. John says his wife's fits of rage are commonplace, and she even burned him with a lit cigarette. Take a look.
I am currently a registered nurse. I work full-time for a treatment center where we actually treat patients with their own substance abuse issues, drugs, and alcohol. I was the valedictorian of my nursing class. It's who I am.
Heather's abuse so far has taken her to the point where she will take morphine and Dilaudid and inject them straight into her veins.
I take Vicodin, Percocet, Oxycontin, oxymorphine, Morphone, benzodiazepines, Soma.
The crazy thing is, from Heather's perspective, because she's a nurse, she thinks she has it completely under control.
When I am coming off the medication, I am a real bitch because I'm panicking.
Heather is both physically and verbally abusive. When I find Heather's stash of pain medication, she will go completely crazy. A few weeks ago, we got into a huge argument. She came after me and burnt me on my arm with a lit cigarette. I do not call you names on a daily basis. I don't physically attack you. I don't verbally attack you.
Unless you're drunk. Ever since I was 5 years old, it was always my dream to be an ER nurse.
She's actually inspired me to change careers at 50 years old to go into the nursing field.
I am currently in the middle of an investigation. I could very likely lose my license because I had taken a lot of narcotics. The situation is really bad. I am actually under investigation from 3 separate states. My fear is that my license will permanently be revoked. And then what do I do?
Well, Heather says, despite her problems, that John is not a saint here. And it's his abusive behavior and drinking that drives her to abuse pain meds.
To cope with the stress of my wife, I will have a drink. I feel like when it comes to my drinking, I do have it under control. I don't feel like I have an alcohol problem. I feel like I have an abusive wife problem.
When John drinks, he will fill up a glass, about 12 ounces or so. He will chug it until it's gone. He passes out, and he wakes up, does the same thing.
When I do drink, it will be on the weekends or if I don't have anything to do the next day.
John will binge for at least 3 days straight around the clock. Gallons of whiskey.
Not gallons and gallons.
Like that?
That's a half a gallon.
Okay, fine.
Heather makes me out to be some kind of monster, but I'm not.
I caught him drinking, and he was mad, and he pushed me into a wall. I hit my head, and then I fell, and I hit the dresser, and I ended up with a huge bruise. John is a hardcore alcoholic. He's so drunk he can't even focus. I don't know what to do to get John to understand that his drinking is causing me to do what I do.
Okay, I'm curious about why you think you're here. Is it to get him help for his drinking and abuse, or is it to get help for your abuse of drugs?
Dr. Phil, so far our relationship is so extremely toxic. I'm I'm so tired of getting thrown underneath the bus.
Yeah, but you're the one who throws me under the bus to all of our friends, not me I don't throw you under the bus. I've kept this pretty much a secret from everybody.
It's
No,
just
we're
become-
here because you have a problem. You have a daily problem. I have a problem once every 4, 6, 8 weeks when I do go on a binge drinking issue because I'm tired of being a babysitter every freaking day. I don't know every day from day to day, when I come home, are you going to be alive?
Okay, so you're here because the relationship is toxic. You're here because she's an addict.
Correct.
If I was making a training video for like a treatment center and we were going to educate kids in school or whatever, and I was going to say, okay, here are all of the explanations, justifications, excuses that people give when they're addicts. I could take your interviews and just label them as typical excuses that addicts and alcoholics give to deflect and justify their behavior. I could just play y'all's videos and I'd be done.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that I use her for an excuse, and she makes a damn good one.
Dr.
right?
Phil, I was recently in the hospital about 2 weeks ago, and I was in for 6 days. He disappeared 3 days into it, left me there the last 3 days to go home and drink, and I never heard from him again,
Correct.
and I was extremely sick. And
At that point, she was under control when I didn't go back. The hospital had it under control. They realized that she went septic, and when I got to babysit every day, when I got to come home, if somebody else can babysit her for the last few days, I need to take a break.
And get drunk.
Right.
and who does this? Who leaves their wife at the
It
hospital?
seems completely rational, right? You know, they got her covered. She'll live.
Right.
Let's get drunk.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Now, 3 years ago, was that the first time you stole medication at work and injected it?
Yes.
Okay, so when you say work, you were working as a nurse, right?
Correct.
And what were you a floor nurse at the time?
Yes, I was.
So you were taking care of patients.
Yes.
And while you were taking care of patients, you were under the influence of drugs
Yes.
that you stole from the hospital,
Yes.
which that's a felony, right?
Yes. Honestly, Dr. Phil, I never thought that our relationship would be sick enough to have you pick us to be on the show. Like, it's surreal because I really didn't think I was that bad. So I hear you saying it, but it's just really hard to swallow.
Yeah, and you're on the lam pretty much, right? I mean, you're state hopping to stay one step ahead of the board because the nursing board will get after you in one state, but you go to another state and you get an automatic temporary
Right.
there, but then by the time that temporary is about to expire, you got to go to another state, get automatic temporary there, but pretty soon there's only 50 states.
Right. Right.
So eventually you hit a wall, it's going to catch up with you, right?
And I'm tired of the cycle. I just never thought this would be me.
And so the fact is that you are holding these people's lives in your hands. You could go in there high, make a wrong decision, read something that's supposed to be 0.05, and you read it as 0.005 or 0.5, and you measure it wrong, you kill somebody. This is dangerous business, right?
Yes.
John took a photo of Heather's stash of needles and pill bottles that he claims she kept hidden on her side of the bed in their bedroom. Now, John claims when he confronted Heather, she first tried to deny that they were hers. Who else would be getting in your nightstand and putting stuff in there?
A night gnome. I don't know. No,
So, but I mean, when you look back at it, it's pretty transparent, right?
yes.
She also took some pictures. These are photos that Heather took of their bedroom door that she claims John kicked in while you were drunk.
That's correct. Yeah, because she locked me out, and I needed to get back in my bedroom.
Because?
Because I wanted to get back in my bedroom to go to bed.
Of course. Makes complete sense.
Can we focus back on her?
Yeah. So how does Heather steal drugs from the hospital? And we're going to talk about that. We'll be right back.
I blame my wife, Heather, for all the drama in our lives. Heather always tells me I'm the one with the problem. But the irony of the whole situation, it's all her fault. She likes to point fingers at me when she's the one acting crazy. I feel like I'm a babysitter, not a husband.
And later, how much would you say you're using at this point?
I'm probably injecting 5 times a day. It sickens me, and I hate to see my dad cry. We are in a crazy cycle that keeps repeating. I create problems by stealing narcotics, and then before there's an investigation, move to another state.
The crazy part about it is we have to leave states because she gets in trouble wherever she works at. We have had to skip town on 2 separate occasions because of Heather's issues.
We're out of places to hide. I don't want to hide anymore. We need to get off this crazy train. It's just a matter of time before we have to face a ton of consequences.
Well, registered nurse Heather says that her husband of 9 years, John, has no right to blame her for abusing pain meds when she has to deal with his drunken episodes. You're saying, I do this because of him. I do this because of her.
Correct.
You know, unless somebody stamps stupid on my forehead, you have to know I'm not buying that, right?
Correct.
How much do you drink when you do drink?
Anywhere from a half a gallon to a gallon over a 3-day period.
Okay, so you just kind of sit on the couch. You don't go out, you don't drive.
Correct.
So you just sit there and drink yourself into a stupor?
Correct. I'll drink, go to sleep, wake back up, and just keep repeating that cycle.
And that's what you did when she was in the hospital, and once you knew that she was probably going to live, they could babysit her, you went home and
Correct.
said, this is a perfect time
Correct.
to drink. So she comes home upset,
Correct.
burns you with a cigarette.
Correct.
The real story of how he drinks is he will take like a 12-ounce glass, and he will fill it with whiskey, and he will chug it down.
I don't chug the whole thing at one time. There's no way. I take shots at a time.
He chugs
and
the
then
whole thing
and
down.
I'll chase it with whatever, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, whatever. I don't sit there and drink a whole big tall glass in one gulp. No.
He absolutely does.
No,
and
I
then
don't.
he
Absolutely
will.
not.
And then he
Absolutely.
will.
Nobody can.
You do somehow, and then he will chase it with like that much ginger ale, and then he'll do that, and he's like gagging the whole time to get it down, and then he falls asleep. He doesn't even pass out. Like I don't, doesn't even pass
Right,
out.
I don't pass out. I
Falls
fall
asleep for like 3 hours and wakes up and does this whole thing over and over and over.
Tell me what the payoff is for whether you do it in one big chug, 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 or you do it in 2 or 3. You're having to gag to get it down. What's the payoff?
That I just get to relax and forget about things. That makes me forget about things. I don't have to join reality at that point.
And how do you feel when you wake up?
Absolutely terrible. I feel full of guilt and remorse.
But you drink again if you've got the time.
Correct.
You don't have to get up and go to work or whatever. You'll do it again. You just keep going deeper
Correct.
and deeper. So the payoff is escape for you.
Correct.
And how does that affect your relationship with her, or do you care?
I do care, but again, I don't. My job has never been in jeopardy. We haven't had to move state to state because of what I'm doing. Again, we've had to move state to state because of her.
Yeah, we're talking about you, though.
But it's
You're
never,
talking about her, but I'm talking about you.
But none of that has ever affected us. It's never affected anything else.
It seems to me like it's affecting you.
Well,
'cause
she just doesn't like it because she'll point it out to everybody
feels
else.
like you abandoned her in the hospital. She came home, burned you with a cigarette, so it is affecting something.
You know, I see how she feels that way, but that's not the way I see it. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Well, but you were drunk, so how would you see it?
Because I was there for the first 3 days. That's not the first time that she's ever been in the hospital. It's not the first time that she's ever been sick.
Now, where'd y'all meet?
He was a friend of my dad's
Where?
in Ohio.
And wasn't this at an AA meeting?
Yeah, he was in the program.
Your dad was his sponsor
Correct.
And roommate. We were roommates.
and roommate. And you had problems back then, right?
Back then.
And you had problems then because you were,
Correct.
yeah. Did it seem like a good idea to y'all to hook up with another addict, alcoholic type, and Did it seem like maybe that was a best choice?
That's the age-old debate in the program. Do you date somebody in the program that understands fully why you have to go to so many meetings a week and go to certain functions and do things?
Well, I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I think it is a good. It can go either way, I suppose, because I know people who have been happily married in the program for years and years, and I know people who have married outside the program, been married for years and years.
Based on results, how has it worked out for you?
To this point, not very well. The first 4 years were great.
What would you say? You think it was a good idea, bad idea?
You know, we followed the advice about waiting to have at least a year's sobriety before getting together. We definitely did those things. In our case, it is not working.
Well, Heather claims John has ruined her relationship with her son. Now, her son is here, and he actually has a lot to say. Heather's father is also here and says he's tired of watching his daughter self-destruct. So we're going to add into this conversation next.
Because of my mom's addiction issues, I wasn't able to live with my mom until I was 13 years old. John hated me, and my mom didn't ever take my side.
For the past 10 years, I've seen my daughter destructive path that she has been on.
For my daughter, Heather, there's no doubt that I'm going to get that call one day that she's overdosed.
And later,
I have no help, and it seems like nobody wants to care.
She has to babysit you with your alcohol issue.
Not on a daily basis.
Because honest, you guys shouldn't have to babysit each other at all. You guys are supposed to be the mature ones in this situation.
I have a son from a previous relationship. Cameron is now 18 years old. Cameron lived with John and I for 3 years. I feel like my husband had a huge part in ruining the relationship with my son.
If Heather thinks that I ruined her relationship with her son, she needs to take a look at herself.
John would call my son manipulative. He would call him a sociopath.
From my point of view, I had nothing to do with ruining their relationship.
I feel like I eventually started to become resentful towards my son, with John always whispering into my ear what a horrible person he was. It made me definitely more distant.
now John claims he did his best to bond with his 18-year-old stepson, Cameron, who he claims has been trying to manipulate his wife, Heather, against him. Now, Cameron admits he does not understand why his mother continues to stay in what he describes as an abusive relationship.
The best way for me to describe my mom and John's relationship is simply toxic. Because of my mom's addiction issues, I wasn't able to live with my mom until I was 13 years old. My house was chaotic. My mom was taking pain medication, and my stepfather was also drinking.
I feel like I tried to bond with Cameron on many occasions, but he wanted nothing to do with it. He still doesn't want to take any personal responsibility for himself. It's still always somebody else's fault.
John hated me, and my mom didn't ever take my side. Once when I was 14, they were fighting, and it got so bad that I could not take it anymore, and I ran out of my room and I grabbed a knife, and I told her that I was about to stab him because of the things that he did. I eventually told them that I can leave if I wanted to.
Cameron basically refused to follow the rules. I said, I will take you to the Greyhound bus station, and I did. Since Cameron has moved out of our home, he has moved from place to place. He has burned every bridge.
I believe that my mom should get away from John. My fear is that my mom is never going to change. I've come to terms with the fact that she may just die soon.
Well, Cameron is not the only person with concerns. Let's hear what Heather's father has to say about this situation that he calls a train wreck.
For the past 10 years, I've seen my daughter destructive path that she has been on. When I think about what's going on, there's many a times where I just start to cry. It's disorganized chaos, a train wreck. There's no doubt in my mind that John is drinking. I don't think there's any parent out there who wants to admit this. My daughter Heather's an addict. I went through the chaos my daughter and son-in-law John are experiencing. And 22 years ago when I stopped drinking, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's what they have to be. What really makes my heart hurt, physically hurt, is my grandson Cameron. My grandson has never really had a chance. My daughter Heather never was a good mother. But I don't think she really knows deep down inside the damage that she has caused. He's been caught in this toxic relationship between John and Heather. He was robbed of a childhood.
For my daughter, Heather, there's no doubt that I'm going to get that call one day that she's overdosed.
It's my hope that Dr. Phil can pinpoint the problem.
This is the last chance they have. There's no more chances.
Well, thank both of you for joining this, and I know both of you are here because you care about what's going on. What's your biggest fear here?
Every time my phone rings and her picture shows up, it's that phone call that every parent dreads, that it's going to be an OD call. There's no doubt in my mind. You got to stop.
She has the belief that because she has training in nursing, that she believes that she can stay on the safe side of things and that she can play this game and be on the safe side. She's convinced herself that she's the exception to the rule.
I think
right?
Yes.
What's your greatest concern here?
I mean, honestly, it's the same thing. Like, I've had a lot of dreams about her passing away, and because of the fact that she doesn't communicate with me or with really anybody, you know, I'm not going to know when that happens. My grandmother had to tell me about what was going on with her when she was in the hospital most recently, because she didn't make the call herself to tell me that she was in the hospital.
But you could have picked up the phone and called at any time also.
Oh, I
you
could
just-
have, but
you
you know,
didn't,
the
right.
situation is
Right.
that we don't have a relationship. And, you know, just things like this with you trying to cause it to seem like it's on everybody else is part of the issue. Because, you know, I've come to accept that you guys are just going to be the toxic people that you are.
You
and
are
I can't
the most
any
toxic
longer
person
be
in
this
her
relationship,
life.
in the middle of this relationship.
You're the most
because
toxic
of the
person in
way
her
that
life,
you
no
guys
matter what you
affect
say.
me.
What is your objective right now in wanting to derogate his character?
Because he needs to understand how toxic, he is the most toxic person in her life, and he doesn't get it. He thinks he's the perfect little angel, but meanwhile, pretty much everybody you ever came in contact with doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. And he just
so
doesn't
you want
see
him
it.
to own everything that he contributes.
Correct.
Like you do.
Right.
Exactly how does Heather get her drugs? You know, we'll talk about that and where the danger lies in the fact that she cannot stay on the safe side of this because, frankly, there just isn't a safe side. We'll be right back.
In order for me to get the pain medication that I abuse, I have to resort to friends that I know who take my drug of choice, and what we'll do is trade those almost like we're trading baseball cards.
Closed captioning provided by...
I admit that I abuse these drugs on a daily basis. What I do now, a lot of times I'll have to go through a whole chemical process of getting the shells off, crushing them down. I inject the medication to get that high. Here's an injection site that was recently infected. I use wherever I can reach, so all of those track marks are from injecting. Since I'm a registered nurse, I know at what point an overdose would be possible. That's part of the reason why I've never tried heroin. I don't know where that line is with that.
When I get up and go to the bathroom at night, I literally can't fall back to sleep until I see you breathe or move.
I know what my tolerance is.
I just don't understand how you can be so arrogant.
In order for me to get the pain medication that I abuse, some of it is still written for me as a script. I run out of it so quickly that I have to resort to friends that I know who take my drug of choice, and what we'll do is trade those almost like we're trading baseball cards. I've been a nurse in a hospital in the ER. The availability of narcotics, it was like a kid in the candy store. I had so much access, it was unreal. Over the years, I have probably taken so many narcotics, so many that I've honestly lost track. I have considered using heroin. At one point, I drove into a neighborhood that's known for their drug sales. I even approached somebody on the street, and he didn't know where to get it. I'm grateful because had I been able to get it that day, I would have used it.
You're not in any denial about the fact that you are completely dependent.
Correct.
And how much would you say you're using at this point?
Depending on what the medication is, or I don't know, I'm probably injecting 5 times a day, just depending on the medication, what's available. Mm-hmm. It's an all-day long cycle, getting it, reconstituting it, trying to find a vein. It sickens me, and I hate to see my dad cry. But you never call me either, Dad. You never call me to see if I'm okay. Neither do you.
And how do you think that makes me feel too? I'm the one that's got to be babysitting her. I have no help, and it seems like nobody wants to care. Nobody cares.
She has to babysit you with your alcohol issue.
Not on a daily basis.
Because honestly, it doesn't matter when the basis is. You guys shouldn't have to babysit each other at all. You guys are adults. You guys are supposed to be the mature ones in this situation.
This started as a prescription issue with you, and you became addicted to the prescription medications. And there is truly an epidemic that you're caught up in the midst of. And Robin and I were just on Capitol Hill testifying about this opioid crisis at this point. And, you know, Robin, I think you were making the comment that if the prescription is filled even one time, what the likelihood of addiction at 1 year is like 1 in 3, is it?
They can refill that prescription one time and become addicted to it.
So you were on a very slippery slope at this point. And it's obviously clouded your judgment because you're not being a very good thief. In West Virginia, the complaint against you states that there were diversions of 15 vials and then 2 vials of morphine from July 2017 to August 2nd of 2017. So, I mean, this stuff is tracked, it's recorded, and so it's not like you're getting away with it. So you know at the time it's going to be found out.
But at that time, I'm so desperate that I don't think about it. I put it in the back of my mind and just try not to get sick.
So is it possible for Heather and John to stay together and not be dysfunctional? Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this when we come back. Closed captioning provided by...
Everybody in this family, including myself, are playing games.
Cameron's biggest game is he likes to manipulate to get exactly what he wants.
When it comes to my parents, I don't believe that I can trust either of them because they've stolen money from me.
When it comes to Heather, she'll play the blame game to me to take the spotlight off of her.
Cameron's game is he is trying to break up my marriage with John. When it comes to John, I really don't know what his game is, but it is destructive and it's destroying our marriage.
I don't play games. I want those 3 to be as happy, joyful, and free as I am today in my life.
Heather, what do you want to do here?
I would like to save my marriage if it's something that you think is salvageable.
You're talking about, do I save my marriage? Do I not save my marriage? That doesn't even make the short list with me. I'm interested in saving your life.
Yeah.
Look, there are some steps that you need to take. And the first one is you need to declare yourself as an impaired professional. You need to get legal representation. You need to not run from the board. You need to run to the board. You need to declare yourself as an impaired professional. These people understand disease. You're not a bad person. You have a disease here. And what you're doing is complicating the situation by failing to use the avenues that are available to you. So you need to stop running from the board, run to the board, declare yourself such, and show good faith that you are in serious treatment to get this under control. Quit blaming this guy, quit blaming anything else, own your situation and get better. Meet these folks down here. Joining us is a program director, Melissa Elkin, and psychiatrist, Dr. Edward Barrios. And this is a premium treatment center called the Brain Spa. They understand your situation, they understand your circumstance, and they understand that your life is in danger. And I've asked them to partner with me in coming up with a plan to help you not only deal with your board, but deal with this life-threatening disorder that you have to try and get this situation under control. You need people in your corner advocating for you to save your life as well as your career, and these are the people that are here that are willing to do it.
What I'm hearing, Heather, is that you feel like you're on autopilot, but really what I'm seeing is that your brain's been hijacked by the opioids, and we want to help you find a way to kind of reprogram your brain and understand that it's not your fault. Your body is under dependency. There are ways. We have some great new techniques that are backed by Dr. Frank Lawless. The BOD, some biofeedback, some different ways of treating you as an opioid person who's dependent, whose body has become, under the insult of opiates. And we really want to help you heal so that you can go back to your family and your profession as well.
So I'm offering you the opportunity to do this, but you have to be willing to immerse yourself in this. And again, that gives you the opportunity to then say to the board, look, I've committed myself to this. I acknowledge my problem. I'm cleaning this up, and I'm showing you this. I'm demonstrating this to you so you can see that I've acknowledged this and what I'm doing. You guys agree with what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Yes. Makes sense to you? So this is what I'm telling you. Are you willing to do this?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Think about what he's saying, Heather. You don't have any more chances. I'm not going to get that phone call. And you mentioned earlier that I don't call you. I'm taking ownership of that. Okay, you're right. But you notice how I used to call you? It came to a period where I couldn't do it anymore, and I would tell Kim that I can't. And then and that's why I backed off a little bit. And when you moved back home to us, I knew that there was a chance. And then all of a sudden you show up at my house on a freaking Saturday, saying that you're moving on Monday. That ripped my heart out. But I knew you were running. And as a parent, I have to step back. I can't do anymore. I just couldn't do it. And I had to, it was a hard.
That was a destructive plan. There is a constructive plan now, and you're willing to step up and be a part of this, right?
I've always have, yes. Yes.
All right. What I need to say to John next. I can tell you she is going to commit to this. She is going to get herself straightened up. She is going to do the work that she needs to do. And if you fail to do the same thing, then you're going to be in her rearview mirror. It's just that simple, because you cannot live with an active alcoholic that is particularly a projector, deflector, and a blamer. And I'm willing to do what it takes. Joining us on this side of the aisle is Clinical Director Deanna Jordan, Clinical Outreach Communicator Brooke McKenzie, and owner Susie Hobson of the Premier Treatment Center, New Method Wellness, to discuss how we can help John, because I believe that John has lost his way. I think he has gotten so into justifying things to himself and making everything just seem like it's just a new normal for him, that he's forgotten everything he once knew about alcoholism and self-destruction. What are you guys hearing here?
Dr. Fell, it never ceases to amaze me that you do in an hour what we do in 3 months. Like, we have to work with people, and you just have such a great way of doing that. John, I don't know if you are willing to completely surrender and stop blaming everybody else. I mean, are you willing to take that on?
Yes.
That your life is completely unmanageable?
Definitely, yes.
Because that's going to be the first step for you. The first step for you has got to be that it's nobody else's fault.
So will you sit down with these people and talk to them? Will you sit down with these people and talk, and let's make a plan that everybody can be excited about? Fair enough?
Yes. Now, and this, he has to be part of the plan, because this is
believe me, he's part of the plan. This is a family dynamic. These are the squeaky wheels, but this is a family dynamic. And this young man deserves the opportunity to be involved in this. He has been there for the hell. He needs to be there for the healing.
Yes.
And you're going to be a big part of this whole thing. Fair enough?
Thank you.
All right. Coming up, we're going to switch gears and talk to a really good personal friend of mine who has a powerful message right after the break. Closed captioning provided by... Well, my next guest is a special friend who has appeared on this show numerous times. He's here to talk about his latest novel, The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, which is in stores today. Please welcome Mitch Albom. What do you say, man? How you doing? Good, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, how are you?
I'm good.
Well, you've been busy. This is really amazing. Mitch has written a new book, The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, which is a sequel, right? This is a sequel to The 5 People You Meet in Heaven.
Right.
And I know what it is about, but please explain so the viewers know.
So The 5 People You Meet in Heaven was my first novel, and it was pretty popular. And
you think?
It concerned an old man named Eddie who dies trying to save a little girl from an accident in an amusement park. And he goes to push her out of the way, and this cart lands on him, and he dies not knowing if he saved her. He goes to heaven, and he finds out that the first stage of heaven is actually you meet 5 people from your life who you may remember or you may not remember, and each one of them sort of shows you a moment that you change them forever and they change you forever. And he keeps asking, did I save the little girl? Was my life a big waste? And at the end, he gets to find out that this life that he thought was a big nothing actually touched all kinds of people in all kinds of ways, which is what I believe about all of our lives.
Right, and John Voight played Eddie in the movie
yeah,
that was made,
yeah,
and which was also a huge success. How much was this current book influenced by the last 15 years of your life?
Well, quite a bit. I mean, ever since that book, I lost my mom, I lost my dad, and I lost a little girl that we raised as our daughter, one of our orphans from an orphanage I operate in Haiti. And so heaven was kind of on my mind. That's Chica right there.
Right.
And so I thought, well, this is a good time to revisit this. And people have been asking me ever since The 5 People You Meet in Heaven came out, what happened to the little girl? Okay, we know Eddie went to heaven. What happened to this little girl that he saved? So I thought this might be a good time to revisit it.
Yeah. And we've been looking at pictures behind you there of Chica. Tell us a little bit about Chica.
I operate an orphanage in Haiti. I'm there every month. We have 47 kids. Chica was one of our kids. At age 5, she developed a very serious brain tumor, and the MRI came back in Haiti saying there's no one in Haiti who can do anything about this. So we brought her up and spent the next 2 years. She was basically our daughter, and we traveled around the world trying to save her. And ultimately, she succumbed to the tumor, but not before changing all kinds of lives, especially mine and my wife's. She was a doll. She was bossy, and she was independent, and she was fiery, and she never once complained. She danced and walked around and never once complained about the situation she was in. I'm not sure she even knew, but she got to have a mother and father for at least a few years of her life, and we got to have a daughter. And I don't look at it as we lost a child. I look at it as we were given one.
Yeah. Now, in both books, the main characters are taught lessons by children. We always say out of the mouths of babes, but talk about how and why you use that device.
Well, I think children probably teach us more about ourselves than anything. In this particular book, not surprisingly, after you've heard what I've just said, Annie, who grows up, in this book, the little girl grows up, she gets married, and on the morning after her wedding, she's in a balloon, one of those balloon rides at sunrise, and something goes terribly wrong, and she dies trying to save her new husband. She goes to heaven and meets 5 people, one of whom is Eddie from the past. But along the way, she lost a child when she was younger, as we did, and she finds out what happened to that child. And I think anyone who's lost a child always wonders, are they in heaven? Will we see them again? Can we talk to them again? I remember Chica one time when she couldn't walk anymore towards the end. We were sitting and we were coloring, and I looked at my watch and said, oh my God, I've got to go. And she said, no, you have to stay here and color. And, you know, I was carrying her from place to place at that time. And she said, no, Chica, I said, I got to go. It's my work. And she said, well, I have to play. And I said, I know, but this is my job. And she said, no, it isn't. Your job is carrying me. And, of course, like you say, out of the mouths of babes, that is our job.
Exactly.
That's our job, to take care of children and those who can't take care of themselves.
People cannot read this book or any of the others, but certainly The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, and not come away with any other reaction than feeling good and reevaluating what they focus on and what their priorities are in life.
We go through life with all these questions. Eddie went through life saying, I don't matter, nothing matters, I'm a nobody. Annie goes through life thinking, I keep making mistakes, I keep making mistakes. If heaven is really the blessed place that we all believe that it is, then it seems to me when we get there, one of the things that's going to happen is we're going to get everything explained to us. You might have thought that wasn't working out, but here's the reason. You might have thought you didn't do anything there, but look at all these different people you touched. And I would think that that would be a pretty good way to begin heaven.
Yeah.
And that's why I imagined it that way.
Yeah, exactly. A special surprise for our audience. You're all going home with a copy of Mitch's book, The Next Person That You Meet in Heaven. Now, the book is available, and it's on sale in bookstores today. So if you're not in the audience, you didn't get one, so you need to go out and get one. I promise you will be glad you did. I want to thank all of my guests today, including best-selling author Mitch Albom. We'll see you next time.